ever get that feeling like knowing your civics is kind of becoming a bigger deal these days?
It's definitely got people talking, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're not alone. And that's why today we're diving into, well, Florida.
The Sunshine State.
They're making some pretty ambitious moves to boost civics education, and it's causing quite a stir.
It's certainly generating a lot of buzz, you could say. And they're not messing around, not just talking basics here.
No, not at all. We're talking about giving students of all ages, kindergartners, all the way up to college grads, a deep understanding of how American democracy really works.
They're aiming for a level of civic literacy that's pretty impressive.
Exactly. The history, the challenges, the nitty-gritty, we're breaking it all down for you today.
Right. And what's really interesting is how Florida's gone about it. They've launched this initiative.
Yeah. Okay, lay it on me.
It's called the Civics Literacy Excellence Initiative. You might hear it called CLEI for short.
CLEI, got it. So the CLEI thing, it's got to be more than just like adding a few history classes, right?
Oh, you're right. Way more. Think total overhaul.
Whoa.
Yeah, spearheaded by Governor DeSantis back in 2019, revamping the entire civics curriculum,
Yeah.
K through 12, even into college. The goal, every student graduating in Florida, they've got a rock-solid grasp of American civics.
Okay, I see why people are taking notice. That's ambitious. But a new curriculum only gets you so far, right? How are they actually supporting teachers and students with all this?
Now that's where it gets even more interesting. They've developed a whole bunch of resources.
Like what? Give me the highlights.
Well, there's this really interesting video series, Portraits in Patriotism, they call it. It features firsthand accounts from people who've lived under oppressive regimes.
Wow, powerful.
Right. And they ultimately chose to come to the U.S. for those freedoms we often take for granted.
Hearing those stories, I can imagine that really brings those civics lessons to life.
Oh, absolutely. Adds a whole new dimension to understanding, like, the value of democratic ideals.
For sure. Makes you appreciate it more. So it's like real-world connections.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just for students. Teachers actually get special training, too. There's this Civic Seal of Excellence program.
Catchy name.
Right. It's designed to boost their own civics knowledge, help them teach it more effectively.
Makes sense. Got to give the teachers the tools, right? So let's get down to brass tacks. What does all this actually look like in the classroom year by year?
So it's kind of a building block approach. Elementary school lays the foundation, basic concepts of government, why we have laws, the whole structure of the American political system.
Starting with the essentials.
Exactly. Then in middle school, well, Florida's got this requirement that's turning heads.
Oh, do tell.
Middle schoolers have to pass a standardized civics exam.
Wait, seriously? To go to high school?
You got it.
Wow, okay. No pressure, right. So what's this exam all about?
It's called the Florida Civic Literacy Exam, or the SCLE. Pretty comprehensive. It covers everything they've learned about how local, state, and federal government branches work.
So the whole shebang.
Yep. The nuts and bolts, how they all interact. And of course, knowing those key historical documents.
Yeah.
Declaration of Independence, the Constitution.
The classics. Can't forget those.
Exactly. It's a big deal for these students.
So no easy pass for Florida middle schoolers. Are there like study guides and stuff to help them prepare for this FCLE?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The state provides study guides, even some sample questions so they can get a feel for it. But, and this is important.
Uh-oh, there's a but.
Those materials don't cover everything on the actual test. So just memorizing answers won't cut it. They've got to really understand the stuff.
No shortcuts for civic duty. I like it. So it's not just memorization. That's good. What about high school? What are we looking at there?
So to graduate high school in Florida, students need credits in both U.S. history and U.S. government.
Double whammy.
Right. Building on that foundation from middle school. And here's a little incentive for those who aced the FCLE back in middle school. They can actually skip the college-level civics test.
Let's talk about motivation. Florida's found a way to make civics matter. I'll give them that. What about those who, let's say, didn't ace the FCLE? What happens when they go to college?
Well, since 2018, any student who enrolls in a Florida college, they got to prove they're civically literate.
Okay, so it follows them. How do they do that? Another test.
They can either pass a specific college-level civics course or, take another civics assessment.
Got it. Florida means business when it comes to civics. That much is clear. But let's unpack this civic literacy idea a bit more. What does it actually mean in the eyes of, Well, Florida.
It really comes down to four key things.
Hmm.
First and foremost, they want students to really get those core principles that underpin American democracy.
Foundation.
Right, like how's the whole system designed to function? Strengths, weaknesses, the whole nine yards.
Democracy 101.
Exactly. Then it zooms in. We're talking deep dive into the U.S. Constitution.
Getting serious now. The big leagues.
Right, because the Constitution, that's our ultimate rule book.
The OG of American laws.
And Florida wants students to go beyond just knowing the rules. It's about understanding how those rules are actually applied in real-life situations, how they affect us every day.
So it's not enough to just memorize amendments. It's about understanding how they play out in the real world.
Yeah.
That's when it gets real.
Now you're getting it. And that leads us to the next key element, landmark Supreme Court cases, those big legal battles that have shaped how we interpret the Constitution, even today.
Ooh, juicy. Now we're talking. And this is probably where those portraits and patriotism videos come in handy, huh?
You bet. It's one thing to, like, read a dry legal summary of, say, Brown v. Board of Education.
Right.
But to actually hear from someone who lived through that, who saw firsthand the fight for equal education, just adds a whole other level.
Totally. It's like you can't get that from a textbook. So we've got the framework of American democracy, deep dive on the Constitution, understanding those landmark Supreme Court cases. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
Tying it all together. They want students to see how those founding documents, like the Declaration of Independence, led directly to the Constitution.
The origin story.
Yes, and how that shaped our government as we know it. Congress, the presidency, the whole system of checks and balances.
It's about understanding how we got here, how American self-governance actually evolved.
You got it. And how it continues to evolve even today.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, right? It didn't just appear out of thin air. It's been shaped and molded over centuries.
Exactly. Debates, compromises, legal battles.
Yeah.
It's a story of constant evolution.
It reminds us that civics, well, it's not just some dusty old textbook subject. It's about how we govern ourselves. Still, I think a lot of people hear civics and they get those flashbacks, you know?
Oh, I know what you mean. Dry textbooks,
Ah.
memorizing facts.
Exactly. So cut to the chase. Why should anyone care? Why is understanding all this stuff so important, especially today?
You've hit the nail on the head. It's easy to think, oh, civics, that's just another class I got to pass. But the truth is, this stuff is fundamental
Fundamental to what?
to being a citizen, an informed, engaged citizen who can actually make a difference.
Okay, so it's about more than just knowing the facts. It's about applying them.
Exactly. It's about knowing your rights, your responsibilities. It's about recognizing how you can actually shape the world around you.
Okay, I like where you're going with this, but can you give me some concrete examples? Like, how does knowing about the separation of powers or the Bill of Rights actually play out in our everyday lives?
Absolutely. Think about those landmark Supreme Court cases we were just talking about. Those weren't just some abstract legal battles.
Right, they decided some pretty major issues.
Exactly. Racial segregation,
Yeah.
freedom of speech, your rights if you're ever stopped by the police. Those cases have had a huge impact on our lives.
They really have. And it's easy to take those rights for granted.
That's the thing. Understanding those struggles, those cases, it helps us appreciate how fragile those rights can be and why we need to protect them. Take Miranda v. Arizona, for instance.
Yes, the you have the right to remain silent case.
That's the one. Before that case, it wasn't standard practice for police to read you your rights.
Really? I had no idea. It seems so, I don't know, ingrained in our minds now.
Right. It took a Supreme Court ruling to make that happen. And now, because of that case, people know they can assert those rights if they're ever in that situation. Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. It can literally change how a situation plays out.
Exactly. And it's not just individual rights. Understanding things like checks and balances, how our government is supposed to work, that's key to holding our elected officials accountable.
Makes sense. You have to know the rules of the game, right?
Exactly. It allows you to see when power might be abused
Right.
and to understand what you can do about it.
It's about knowing when something isn't right and then having the tools to address it, being an active participant.
Yes. And this is where those landmark cases are so helpful. They show us how the Constitution has been interpreted, reinterpreted even, over time, often in response to some pretty major challenges.
Speaking of those landmark cases, I'm ready for a little crash course. Can you walk me through some of the big ones that Florida is focusing on in its civics curriculum?
You bet. Let's start with a big one. Brown v. Board of Education.
Oh, I remember this one from history class, Desegregation of Public Schools.
You got it. 1954 overturned the whole separate but equal idea. a landmark case for the civil rights movement.
Definitely a turning point in history. What else? What other cases are considered must-knows?
Well, fast forward a few decades, you've got Texas v. Johnson. This one still sparks debate today.
Oh, right. This is the flag burning case, right?
Yep, 1989. The court ruled that burning the flag, while deeply offensive to many, is protected speech under the First Amendment.
Wow, that must have been a tough one.
It was a tough one.
Yeah.
It really highlighted that tension between deeply held values like patriotism and fundamental freedoms.
Freedom of expression, that's another big one, especially when you're talking about schools. And that reminds me of Tinker v. Des Moines.
Another classic. Students wearing black armbands to protest the Vietnam War. The court sided with the students on that one.
So students do have some free speech rights in schools, but I imagine there are limits, right?
Oh, of course. It's all about finding that balance. And that's where a case like Hazelwood v. Kuhlmeyer comes in. This one dealt with student newspapers and yearbooks, school-sponsored publications.
So it's about balancing student expression with, well, making sure schools are safe and appropriate learning environments.
Exactly. And these are just a few examples. Florida's curriculum also includes cases about the rights of the accused, the limits of presidential power, you name it. U.S. v. Nixon, for instance.
Right, that's a big one. Even the president isn't above the law.
Exactly. No one is exempt. We're all accountable under the law. That's the principle.
I'm seeing a theme here. Accountability, the rule of law. Important stuff.
Absolutely. And these principles, as abstract as they may seem sometimes, they have very real consequences for people every single day. Gideon v. Wainwright, that's another one.
Refresh my memory.
This is the case that guarantees your right to a lawyer, even if you can't afford one.
Oh, right. That's huge. Everyone deserves a fair shot in court.
Exactly. And that case ensured that everyone, regardless of their income, has access to legal counsel. That's a game changer for our justice system.
It really highlights how much impact these cases have had, how they've shaped our whole understanding of rights and freedoms.
And you know what? Those cases, as important as they are, they're just one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
The Constitution and all those amendments.
Exactly.
It's like those cases, they bring the Constitution to life, you know?
They really do. They take those big ideas, those principles, and they show you how they play out in the real world with real people.
It makes it all feel so much more, I don't know, relevant.
Exactly. And that's really what Florida is going for with this whole civics push, connecting those dots between the theory and, well, the actual practice of it all.
So it's about understanding not just what the Constitution says, but why it says it, and how it actually works in practice.
Now you're getting it. And that kind of understanding, that's what leads to real civic engagement.
Okay, I'm with you. So let's dig into some of those big principles, those core ideas embedded in the Constitution and its amendments, the ones Florida really wants its students to understand. We've touched on a few, but what else is there?
Well, one of the most fundamental is federalism, that whole balance of power between the states and the federal government.
Ah, yes, states' rights. Always a hot topic.
You said it. And it all goes back to the Constitution, how it's structured, how it divides those powers. It's a debate that's been going on for centuries, and it's still going strong today.
It's amazing to think about that, how this one document written so long ago is still so relevant to our lives today.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that's why understanding federalism is so important, because it affects everything. How our laws are made, how our government functions.
The framework for it all.
Exactly. And then there's the rule of law, which we've been talking about all along.
Right, that no one is above the law, not even the president.
Exactly. Everyone is accountable to the same rules, the same legal processes, no exceptions.
I like that, accountability.
It's so important for a just society. And it's something that we have to constantly work at, constantly reaffirm through legal challenges, through court rulings. It's an ongoing process.
That's like checks and balances, right? Making sure no one person or entity has too much power.
Exactly. The Founding Fathers, they knew how dangerous unchecked power could be. So they built in all these safeguards.
Smart guys, those Founding Fathers. Okay, what about the necessary and proper clause? That one always seemed kind of mysterious to me.
Ah, the elastic clause. It's a good one. Basically, it gives Congress the power to adapt to changing times, to address new situations that the Founding Fathers couldn't have even imagined.
So it's like a built-in flexibility mechanism.
Exactly. Because they knew the world wouldn't stand still, right? Our government needs to be able to evolve.
Can you give me an example? How has this necessary and proper clause actually played out in real life?
Sure. Think about the early days of the United States. The Constitution, it doesn't actually say anything about creating a national bank.
Well, they did things a little differently back then.
Right, but Alexander Hamilton, he argued that a national bank was essential, that the government couldn't function properly without it.
Even though it wasn't explicitly mentioned in the Constitution?
Exactly. He said it fell under those implied powers, the powers that are necessary to carry out the government's duties. And the Supreme Court agreed.
That's the McCulloch v. Maryland case, right?
Ding, ding, ding. You got it. See, it all connects. They ruled that creating that national bank was constitutional.
Wow. That's amazing. Who knew something like a national bank could be such a big deal?
It is a big deal because it shows how these principles, these seemingly abstract ideas, they have real-world consequences. They shape our government, our lives.
This is really making me think about civics in a whole new light. It's so much more dynamic than I realized.
That's exactly what Florida wants its students to see. It's not just about memorizing facts. It's about understanding the whole picture, the complexities, the nuances.
The whole shebang.
Exactly. It's about understanding how it all fits together. The Constitution, the courts, the cases. It's the whole tapestry of American democracy.
Well said. I think we've successfully navigated this deep dive into Florida's Civics Education Initiative. It's been quite a journey.
It has. And I think we've shown that these concepts, they're not just dusty relics of the past. They're still shaping our world today.
Absolutely. So next time someone brings up, like, the Electoral College or the Fifth Amendment at a dinner party,
You'll be ready.
armed and dangerous with my civics knowledge, who knew learning about government could be this interesting?
It's all about how you approach it. And I think Florida's onto something with this initiative. It's creating a more informed, engaged citizenry. And that's something we can all be excited about.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a little something to think about, a question to ponder. If you could add a 28th Amendment to the Constitution, what would it be? What issue do you think deserves a place in that all-important document?
It's a question worth considering. After all, the Constitution is a living document, right? It's meant to evolve with the times.
Let us know what you think. Maybe we'll even tackle some of your proposed amendments in a future episode. Until then, keep those civic conversations going.